Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 12, Episode 41, overall 646 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme CDP sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969. And I know today we had a nice mild spring day here in Ontario, which is ridiculous, but winter is here. The cold temps are coming back. Snow's coming back. If you're looking for winter tires, check out the service department at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership. Either consultants Greg Smith or Sarah Higgins can help you with your winter tire needs. And also at Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, with the cold weather coming back, you should get your battery checked. They will do a free 12-volt battery check for free. And if you happen to need a new battery, you can receive a $20 rebate. More details at barrycullen.com. I hope everyone is doing well on this Friday, January 9th, 2026. This is my fourth show in 5 nights with 4 different guests. And my guest tonight, it's her first appearance on our show. We met through TikTok and social media, and we're going to bring her on shortly. Her name is Emily Arner. She is a longtime flight attendant and also content creator as well. So we're going to talk to her about a little bit about her airline career as a flight attendant and some of her stories and how she got into it, and as well as a little bit about being a content creator as well and sharing her flight attendant experiences on social media as well. So we're going to bring on Emily Arner right now. Good evening, Emily. How are you?
Oh, no.
Good evening, Emily. How are you?
And now I can't hear you at all, Chris. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. No worries, everybody. Hopefully Emily can hear me now. Okay. We're just having a check. Okay.
I lost all audio. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yes. I can see you and hear you clear.
I lost all audio. Shoot. I don't know what to do.
Maybe try unplugging going without the earplugs. Just 1 second, everybody. I apologize. Apple does not seem to be compatible with StreamYards. So I'm going to try to get Emily on. So Emily is a longtime flight attendant, a mom, and a content creator. She's based out of Arizona, and hopefully we can get Emily back on. Obviously, there's an issue with Apple earbuds in StreamYard, so hopefully we can get this resolved, and we can have her back on our show in a minute. So while we're waiting for Emily, we got some NFL going on. We must wait as we wait for a guest. I apologize for the technical glitches. We've got some NFL going on this weekend, and let's see if we can get Emily back on. Just 1 second, everybody. I'm going to try to bring my guest back on, Emily Arner, and see if this works this time.
Now I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. No. Like all of a sudden the audio cut out.
For some reason, I've had guests lately who have had those Apple earbuds and they've had issues with hearing me. So hopefully we can get through the show without any more.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We got this.
No worries. Hey, as a flight attendant, you have to learn to think on your feet and ad-lib. And with a radio media, sometimes you've got to ad-lib and think on your feet too.
Absolutely. It's, you know, Got to be able to do it.
Well, how was your Christmas and holiday season, and Happy New Year to you?
Happy New Year to you. It was great. It was good. I actually had a couple days off of work over Christmas, so I got to be home with the kids and with my husband, which is not very common in the airline industry. Generally, flight attendants, we end up having to work on holidays. So I was very, very thankful that I was able to get those days off and was home with the kids. And yeah, no, it was great. How was yours?
It was quiet. It was not I don't have a big family, but it was quiet. It was good. No complaints, and it comes by so quick. I think
Yeah.
Christmas is for kids. I I personally think Christmas should be for kids, and also I'm the type that rather give than to receive. I'm very fortunate, so I like to always help out with the Humane Society, a local food bank, or the Salvation Army at Christmas time for those that are less fortunate.
That's amazing. That's awesome because it is we've financially have had a really hard year this last year, so it wasn't a big Christmas for us. My husband and I didn't get each other anything for Christmas, and we were totally fine with that. We made sure the kids had a good holiday. But we do like to work with charities and stuff over the years. This year we just couldn't, unfortunately weren't able to do that, but hoping that next year well, I guess it's the new year now, so I guess this coming Christmas we are able to get back to being able to do that, because I do think it's so important, and it feels so good to be able to do that and be able to help out those that are struggling. Again, this was a tough year for us, so we were kind of in that position this year, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to help out with others in that same position next year.
Do you prefer a white Christmas or you like the green Christmases in
Oh, no,
Arizona?
I live in Arizona. I don't wanna see
Oh,
snow
some
at all. I
snow?
am perfectly happy with no. But I grew up in Ohio, so
Okay.
I had a lot of white Christmases as a kid, and now I am very happy to see palm trees and cactus and sunshine, and I don't need the snow.
What part of Ohio are you from? Because I know Ohio well. Cleveland, Sandusky, Cedar Point, Sandusky, Cleveland,
Yes,
Canton,
yes,
Ohio. So where were you
Canton.
from originally? Canton.
So I was actually born in Bowling Green, Ohio, which is just south of Toledo. My dad's family was from Canton originally, but I really I say I grew up in Cincinnati because we moved to Cincinnati when I was like 9, so kind of spent all of my formative years in Cincinnati. But yeah, so kind of lived all over, no, spent most of my childhood in Ohio.
By the way, one of my favorite TV shows was WKRP in Cincinnati, and
Yes.
I did get to go to Cincinnati in 1999. My friend and myself decided to do a day trip to Cincinnati from here, which is about
I
10 and a half hours. And it's like,
That's not a
I,
day trip.
well, to me, that was a long time. When you're in a pickup truck for 10 and a half hours, and then we got to the hotel. The hotel was not it was a nice hotel, but they put us in the crappiest room. And then we went
Ugh,
to the football game, and then we came back. It was fun, but it was a long 2-day trip.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that was a long drive. Yeah, WKRP is obviously what I mean. Anytime you say Cincinnati, anybody that's over the age of 40 goes
Yeah.
WKRP.
Yes, and obviously one of my favorite breakfast places in the States is from Ohio, Bob Evans too. So anytime I'm over in the States, I do like eating at Bob Evans
Oh yeah, grew up going to Bob Evans. I mean, it's
or
right down the
Cracker
street. It's
Barrel.
still right down the. Yeah. Oh yeah. They're all good. They're all just that like
Yeah.
classic diner, like
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, delicious, delicious biscuits and gravy from Bob Evans is one of my favorites.
Now, since we're talking about food, what was your favorite Christmas food?
Oh, ham, got to be ham. Like that's I could leave everything else, but give me the ham, and I'm happy.
Normally, I have ham every Christmas, but this year, my friend who owns a little restaurant, she makes homemade lasagna, and it's like the best
Oh,
lasagna ever. So this year, I changed it up and had homemade lasagna and Caesar salad for Christmas dinner.
oh, see, that sounds amazing. I mean, you got to switch it up every once in a while. I mean, you can have ham anytime, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, homemade lasagna is the best.
turkey, I'm not a big fan of. I've never liked turkey. I've just never done anything for it.
For me, turkey is delivery system for the gravy. Like that's all it is.
I
It's
don't
just
mind.
about the gravy.
I don't mind the gravy or the stuffing. The meat. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of. But
Yeah.
Emily, I wanted to ask you this. Your son, he has, what do they call it? Hirschsprung's disease?
Hirschsprung's, yeah. So Hirschsprung's
Hirschsprung's.
disease. Yeah, so it's this very rare condition. It's a genetic thing, and which is crazy when we got the diagnosis because nobody in either one of our families has this. So for us, it was totally just a genetic anomaly that I guess is the way to say it, that it happened to my son. Um, it's something that it's more common it's much more common in boys, like 4 times more common in boys than it is in girls. um, there's a couple other things that it can be associated with, but it's this very rare thing, and what it is that the nerve endings in the lower intestine don't form correctly. And so basically, what that means is that that a portion of the lower intestine is kind of non-functional, which means you can't poop. Your body can't move things through it. So it's again very rare, doesn't happen very often. um we didn't find out that my son had this until he was about 4 months old. We'd had issues from the time he was born, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And they finally ended up doing a biopsy of his lower intestine to figure out that this was correct, that he had Hirschsprung's, which is just the nerve endings. Essentially, there's no nerve endings there; they just don't form correctly. Um, so most kids that have it, they figure it out very quickly because they aren't able to poop. So it's something they figure out. Generally, they figure it out like within a couple of days of being born. And that was not the case for us. It took us a couple months to figure out what was going on and to get this diagnosis. So he had surgery when he was 5 months old, and they ended up removing about 7 inches of his lower intestine. And that was the part where the cells, the nerve endings didn't form correctly. They removed up to the point where they kind of, as they do the surgery, they're testing as they go to see if the nerve cells are firing correctly. So they kind of keep going until they get to a point where they find cells that are the nerve endings that are functioning correctly. So for him, it ended up being about 7 inches. So as a newborn, that's a fairly significant portion of his lower intestine that had to be removed. And we're super fortunate that we've had no issues with it. Kind of up until a couple months ago. Most kids with Hirschsprung's do kind of have. A lot of them end up having to have multiple surgeries. They kind of have kind of constant stomach issues, and um, a lot of, not all of them, but the large majority of them that do have this do end up kind of with more issues that come up regularly. And we've been very fortunate that that's just not been the case for us, that he kind of has had, since his surgery when he was 5 months old, we've really had like no issues at all. And then in October, he ended up, what we ended up figuring out after he was in the hospital was that he got salmonella, which was, salmonella is everywhere. And I didn't realize how common it was before this happened. That, those of us, especially as adults, we're kind of exposed to salmonella all the time, but our bodies are able to process it. And, we might get an upset stomach, and that's kind of it. Our body's able to flush it out, and we never think twice about it, like never realize that that's what we have. But for him, having Hirschsprung's, because of it, his entire intestinal tract moves slower than like a normal person. So he got salmonella somehow. We have no idea how he got it. We're assuming something from school, or like we have no idea how he got salmonella. But he got it, and it everything sat in his intestines for longer because his intestinal tract, it just doesn't move things as quickly as the rest of us. And so it sat there, and the salmonella just multiplied much quicker, and ended up being this almost catastrophic incident where we by the time we took him to Children's Hospital, and because he was so miserable and running a fever and in just pain, we took him, and it took him about 24 hours to kind of figure out what was going on. But they had the initial x-ray they had done, his entire intestinal tract was swollen and ballooned up, and they were almost immediately kind of said, we think we're going to have to take him into surgery because we're afraid that his intestines are going to burst because they're so swollen. Fortunately, we were able to avoid that and didn't end up, they were able to flush him out and get everything moving and get the swelling down before it became that detrimental, because obviously if your intestines rupture, that's really very, very dangerous, and could be life threatening. So we caught it kind of just in time. So he ended up being in the hospital for about a week, and got everything everything cleared out and got the salmonella under control. And um, so it was definitely scary, and but we were very fortunate. We had really, really amazing medical care at Children's. They were fantastic. They were great with him. And um a 5-year-old does not have a fun time being in the hospital because he was stuck in his room, and he couldn't leave his room. And he's stuck. And he has a twin sister, and he there that was very difficult because they've never been apart before. So this week stay in the hospital without his twin sister was very, she missed him and he missed her, and they didn't quite understand why they couldn't see each other. And so it was so that was rough again. And then that was October, so right before Christmas, just as we're getting into the holiday season. We were in the middle of moving. It was a whole lot going on in our lives at that moment. And but we made it through, and he's good. So again, we've the Hirschsprungs is something we kind of have to be very cautious of, and we have to pay attention to kind of what he's eating, and making sure that he's staying active, because that of course helps with your digestion. And so there's things that as he gets older, we have to keep a close eye on, for him. But it's um, we've been just very lucky that he has really not had a lot of the issues that some of these other kids with Hirschsprungs do have. Um, we've had one surgery and then one hospital stay, and that's it. Other than that, it's really doesn't affect our daily lives very much. So it could be a whole lot worse. But it's something we're kind of always aware of, and we have to pay attention to, and make sure that um, that he's that he is kind of pooping normally, and that he's you know eating. We do have to pay attention to his diet and make sure that he's eating good stuff that helps with digestion, and to keep it from becoming an issue. So yeah, there's the story with that.
Is Hirschsprung eventually curable, or is this something that your son and many others will have to live with the rest of their lives?
So it's something he'll have to live with for the rest of his life. It is. So what's really interesting is this podcast I did the other day, with somebody. It's the podcast host has Hirschsprungs, and he's in his, I think, 30s. And he talks with other people to kind of let people share people's experiences with this, and kind of the spectrum of what this how this goes. But what's really interesting is he was telling me that he was talking to one of the lead research doctors that works on Hirschsprung's, just recently, and they are within about a year or two of being able to actually regrow the ganglion cells, which are the nerve endings that are not functional. So they are within about a year or two of actually being able to regrow those, which is incredible. So now so for my son or anybody else that's older that already has it, that already has had intestine removed because of it, they wouldn't necessarily, the being able to regrow those cells at this point wouldn't be there. There's no benefit because they've already had that portion of the intestine removed that is the issue. But it is really promising and really exciting for kids that are born with it, that instead of having to, in the future going forward, that instead of having to remove that, large portion of their intestinal tract, they could potentially be able to have the cells regrown or regenerate, which is amazing. That's really exciting kind of news, that we're that close to that being possible.
Is there a website where people can check out the site and get some more information? And then there a phone number as well?
I am sure that there is. I think if you just Google Hirschsprungs,
Okay.
I'm sure that there is probably a dedicated website to it, and I probably should know it, and I do not.
Now, when your son had it, how long did you guys what was the first symptom that you picked up right away? And how important was it getting him looked at by medical staff?
So, the first thing for him was from the time he was born, and again, he has a twin sister, so it was really easy to compare the two. 'Cause, newborns generally poop every day,
Okay.
multiple times a day. Like, I mean, that's what they do. They eat, sleep, and poop. Um, he was, we kind of realized very quickly, when we brought them home from the hospital, that his sister was, like a normal newborn, was pooping, a couple times a day. And he was not. He was going 4, 5, 6 days without pooping. And he would be this super happy, content baby up until we hit about the third day. And then, and all of a sudden you could kind of tell that he was miserable. He was fussy, and he was like his stomach would be distended. And we kind of thought he was, maybe he was colicky. And we just kind of couldn't quite figure out what was going on, because he would go from just this very happy baby to then being very, very, very noticeably miserable. And fair enough. I mean, you go a couple days without going, and we all get miserable. And but it was, again, having a twin sister, it was really easy to compare the two, where we could say, she was going every day, if not multiple times a day, and here he's going for 4, 5, and 6 days without pooping. And that is clearly not it, clearly not good. And we kind of within, I mean, the first, I don't know, first like month and a half, 2 months, at that point we've got two newborns, we're sleep deprived, we're just trying to survive every moment. So it took us a little while to kind of start to go, hang on, like something doesn't quite seem right here. And so I think it was at his either 2 or 3 month checkup that we kind of mentioned it to the pediatrician, and we said, this just doesn't, something doesn't like quite seem right, because their schedules for this are very different. And something seems off. And she right away said, yeah, that's not normal. He should be going every day, or at least every other day. Like going for 4, 5, and 6 days without pooping is definitely not normal. And so she was able to get us into a GI specialist at Children's. um, Very, very quickly. She was able to pull some strings and get us in, which was amazing, that we didn't have to wait. Generally, you have to wait months for those appointments. So she was able to get us in within a couple weeks, and um, started the process to doing the biopsy and the testing, and then getting surgery scheduled to fix it.
Besides being on certain foods, is he on medicine as well?
Nope, nope. We do now. We do have to, if he starts. if he starts complaining about his stomach hurting, we will do things like Pepto for kids, like, that sort of stuff, like Gas X or something, those kinds of over the counter medicines will help if he starts getting a little bit backed up. But that's it. No, he doesn't have to take anything normally. Just have to keep an eye on his diet and keep his diet. That's the biggest thing that kind of affects it, is the worse the diet is, the more likely you are to have issues with it.
How was your work with taking some time off? Were they accommodating?
So I was actually, when I got pregnant with the twins, I actually ended up taking time. I actually left my job with U.S. Airways. Well, at the time the merger had happened, so it was American. But I left work when I got pregnant with the twins. So I ended up taking about 6 years off of work to be home with them. So I fortunately at that time was not working. I was home. All I was doing was taking care of taking care of two newborns, which is clearly a job by itself.
Even one's enough, and then two, and then I'm just glad your son's gonna be okay, and, I'm definitely gonna have to read up on this a little bit more too, and I'm just wondering how many have you spoken to other parents who've had this situation that your son has?
I actually have one friend whose son is in his 20s, that he does have it as well. He has Down syndrome as well, which it is actually a very common connection between the two. Doesn't necessarily mean that one means you have the other, or either way around. But it is more common with Down syndrome. Hirschsprung's is a there is a connection with Hirschsprung's and Down syndrome. So my friend's son is in his 20s, mid 20s at this point, and he does have it. He has Hirschsprung's as well. But that's the only other person I've ever like met that has it. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it is the occurrence of it. It's very rare. It's not a common thing at all.
And would you like to give a shout out to the medical staff that kinda helped your
Oh
son?
my gosh. Oh, absolutely. So between Cincinnati Children's and then Phoenix Children's, the two is where we've had but his initial surgery and then this last hospital stay. The medical staff was absolutely fantastic, top notch. I cannot say enough about how amazing they were, just walking us through what was going on, talking to my son and keeping him, kind of helping him through the process. And for this last hospital stay, obviously when he was 5 months old, he didn't understand, but the children's staff has just been absolutely fantastic. And we are then our follow-ups that we've had, like, they've just been amazing, and I could not thank them enough for how much they kind of helped us through this whole thing.
And, the Toronto Sick Kids Hospital, Toronto Sick Kids Hospital here in Toronto does a wonderful job as well, and, as a parent, you just want your kids to be healthy, and without your health, nothing else really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. It's heartbreaking as a parent to see your kid suffering, and to like feel like you can't there's nothing you can do to fix it, other than getting them the best help possible, the best medical care that you can possibly find. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard as a parent to see your kid going through something that you can't fix.
So when you have a newborn, you wanna make sure your newborn is pooping on a regular basis, and if not, then you need to get it looked at right away.
Yes, absolutely. If your newborn is not pooping regularly, talk to your pediatrician. Talk to them, because it can definitely be a sign of something. Doesn't necessarily mean it's Hirschsprung's. It could be there's a multitude of other things it could be, but it could potentially be Hirschsprung's. So yeah, talking to your pediatrician if your child is not pooping regularly is really really important.
How often do you get them to get checked out by a doctor?
At this point, so after this last hospital stay, they want us to bring him in every 6 months. They have enrolled him in a study that they're doing where they follow the kids that they do have. They follow them kind of throughout their life just to kind of track their progress, see how they're doing, because it is rare enough that they don't have a ton of data on it. So the more kids they can enroll in the study, the more they can learn about it and help future generations. So yeah, so they want us to come in every 6 months just for a checkup, unless we start having any issues, and if we have any issues at all, where he's getting constipated, he's not pooping regularly, then they made it very clear they're like get him into us right away so that it doesn't get to this point like it did with this last hospital stay. So yeah, so for this point, every 6 months, just to check up and just follow up and see how he's doing.
Has it been challenged to find the right foods that he should have?
Um, not necessarily. I mean, he's a kid, so he's picky anyways.
Yeah.
He's not a big fan of cheese, which is fortunate because a lot of kids like cheese. Cheese obviously causes constipation, and so that we don't have to worry about because he doesn't eat cheese anyways. So that would be one that we would have to be really, if he did like cheese, we would have to be really cautious with that just to prevent him from getting, backed up. But we're really good about things like, yogurt that has like probiotics in it, making sure that he is just getting a good balance of proteins and veggies and um not overdoing it on like any one particular food is kind of the big thing. But yeah, like yogurt's is a good one, just making sure he's getting yogurt because that obviously helps with digestion and um but he's 5, so it's a little tough because he can be a little picky and doesn't want to eat certain things, or he only wants to eat like this one particular thing for like days at a time. That's all he wants to eat. So we just have to kind of keep an eye on it and try and balance it as much as we possibly can.
I'm sure you and your husband's Christmas gift this year was having your son at home for Christmas and feeling better.
It was absolutely that was absolutely the best thing that we could have asked for, was just for him to be healthy and be okay, and he is. So
Emily, I want to say thank you so much for talking to our audience and explaining to me a little bit about this as well. And that's what I love about this show is the storytelling aspect. And thank you for giving us a half an hour for explaining this as well.
yeah, sorry for taking so long. I like there's it's I like I said, I can talk about this just because
Yep.
it's been part of our experience. It's been the last 5 years, like just dealing with this and learning about it. So I'm happy to share, and I hope that it helps give somebody a little bit of help at some point.
And that's what this show is about too. It's about storytelling and learning. And I thank you for being able to open up about this and your son's experience as well.
Yeah, thank you for letting me talk about it.
Emily, I'm based out of Toronto. And before we get to questions, I'm 53 years old. I've never been on an airplane. And after 9/11 happened, without getting into politics, I just decided after 9/11, I'm never going on a plane. But I will try. I should try it at least once in my life. What would you tell somebody like myself or somebody who's never been on an airplane where they should at least try it once?
It's such a cool experience. I grew up on airplanes. My grandfather was a pilot and had his own airplane, so I grew up flying on airplanes. I mean, I didn't know anything different. I was always on an airplane. It is my favorite part, and I think the coolest thing, and the reason that you should get on an airplane at least once in your life, and you need to make sure that you get a window seat so that you can watch out the window, because as you are climbing up, where you can look out the window and you watch the world below you get smaller, and you watch the houses get smaller, and it gets to the point where the cars look like little toy cars on like a toy road, and the houses look like playhouse. It's just as your client, it's this really cool moment or moments of being able to watch as everything kind of gets smaller and you're watching this down below and then getting to see the landscape down below you. And it's, I know we see it in pictures and we see, now you can see videos and you can see pictures of it like easily online, but there's something very different about being able to see that in person and watch that happen as you're climbing, and that kind of feeling of oh my gosh, like I'm kind of floating in the air. Like it's a very surreal sort of cool, maybe a little bit scary, but very interesting feeling that I think everybody should get to experience that, because it really is. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite moment to watch is as we're climbing up, and getting to watch kind of the world below and how the world shrinks, and you get to see kind of this crazy view of the landscape below you. It's just it's an amazing kind of sensation and feeling.
Like everybody's all shrinking and just amazing going up. How many feet do you go up at on a I'm going to reword this. When you're on a regular flight, how many feet up in the air are you guys on general in
Um,
general?
Generally anywhere from 25 to 35,000 feet, depending on, it depends on the size of the plane. The bigger the plane, the higher up they generally will fly. Smaller planes fly at a little bit lower altitude. But 35,000 feet is kind of normal for the kind of average size plane is where you are. So once you get up, depending on what the weather is, but once you get up, a lot of times you're above the clouds, so all you can see is, the clouds is all you can see below you. So um, just looking out, like you just see this sea of white below you, because you're above, there's a full cloud cover. And then other days it's clear and you can see, you know, the kind of the world below you. So it's kind of, it's different every time you fly. It's different. You get a different view, which is really cool.
What would your advice be to for some first time flyers? Like if I'm going on a plane or you have somebody that's going on a flight with you that's never, how do you get them to kind of relax and maybe not have anxiety, obviously.
So my favorite thing to say, to tell people, and I get this all the time. I get people all the time that they're, will say, "Oh, this is my first time flying, and I'm really nervous. I'm really anxious." My favorite thing to tell them is to watch the flight attendants. If we are calm, there is absolutely nothing to worry about. If we look like we're like something's going on, then maybe you could, start to worry a little bit. But 99.9% of the time we are there isn't anything going on. There's nothing to worry about. So even when you feel those bumps, we get a little bit of turbulence and you feel those bumps. That's why I tell people to look at us, because if you look at us and we are still calm and we're not worried about the turbulence, then there's nothing to worry about, because we do this all the time, and we can kind of, we can tell when it's nothing to worry about. And if it's a little bit more serious, if you look at our faces and you see us start to get a little like, then maybe you can get a little like, that's the time to maybe have a little bit of anxiety. But even that, if as long as you look at the flight attendants and they're calm, there's nothing to be concerned about. It's everything is normal, typical function of flying.
So being a flight attendant too, you also have to be maybe sometimes a bit of an actor, an actress sometimes too.
um, most of the time.
Uh, By the way, a fun fact about me, my niece Paisley, who's 25, here in Canada, she is going for her full pilot's license, and I guess that's something she wants to do. And the process is a lot of education and a lot of flight hours. Now, obviously, you're a flight attendant. Did you ever thought about being a pilot at all, or is a flight attendant something that you wanted to do originally?
I so I no, I actually always wanted to be a pilot. Like I said, my grandfather was a pilot. My dad had his pilot's license before he had his driver's license. I grew up on airplanes, with my grandfather flying us around, and I always wanted to be a pilot, but it just wasn't. By the time I like you said, it's a lot of education. And it's expensive. It's not cheap either, to go through pilot training. So kind of by the time I got to the age where I could start looking at that, I was more interested in having fun, and wasn't at that point in my life, just wasn't committed to it. And now, at this point at 45, I wish that I had, but I will say that, the next thing that I always wanted to do, because my grandfather was a pilot and we grew up flying on his airplane. My grandmother was always his flight attendant. She was never actually a flight attendant, but she was always the one that took care of all the safety things, and she did all the flight attendant duties on my grandfather's airplane. And I grew up watching her do these things, and then she would always have food for us, and she would have drinks and snacks, and all the things that flight attendants do. I grew up watching her do that. And as I got older, I realized that was I loved watching her do that. And I loved the idea of doing that for others, and helping them have a good experience in their flight. And yeah, being pilot was something I wanted to do, but just kind of didn't work out for various reasons. And so being a flight attendant, when by the time I hit about 21, that was I kind of had in my head that that is what I wanted to do, that I really thought I would enjoy it, and I do.
Wanted to ask you this. I grew up in the 70s. I'm 53, and every time somebody would go on an airplane, the flight attendants are females. Do you find there's a little more diversity with flight attendants now being both female or male, or do you find it strictly still a lot of females?
It still is predominantly a female based job, but there are a lot more males and men that are in the job now. And part of that is just because, as times have changed, the airlines now are willing to hire more men, whereas back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they strictly only hired women. They were very particular about your size and your marital status, and you couldn't get pregnant, and your age, and they had very, very strict rules. So as those rules started to loosen up, and I'm not sure when they started hiring men as a whole, but at whatever point they did start hiring men. So I would say it's probably 70% women and 30% men. I'm totally making those numbers up. It could be like off from that, but there is a good amount of there are a good amount of men in this job now, compared to even 15 years ago, where there were not as many. There was still a whole lot more women. There's a lot more diversity now, for sure.
How many years have you been a flight attendant, and how much would you say you've evolved and improved over the years of the flight attendants?
So total years that I've actually flown, like I said, I took about 6 years off to be home with the kids. But so I've flown for about almost 8 years now, that I've flown. I worked for US Airways originally, and then US Airways and American merged. And then took time off to be home with the kids, and I'm with Delta now. So sorry, what was the second part of your question?
How much have you evolved and improved and learned from your experiences in your 8 years as a flight attendant?
I feel like I have learned a lot, and a lot of it is just learning patience, because you are dealing with 200 people ish, on one flight, stuck up in a metal tube in the air. Um, so a lot of it is, I think part of it is just getting older, and having more patience. Um, and part of it is doing this job, and dealing with the general public. Travel is very stressful, and a lot of people are not necessarily at their best when they're traveling because they are stressed, and it's not necessarily a fun experience for a lot of people. So as I've done this job and as I've gotten older, I've learned a lot about being patient, having grace for people who are to them in a very stressful situation, and and just being more conscious of the fact that not everybody does this every day for their job. It is not necessarily a normal thing, especially during the holidays, especially during the summer, where you have a lot of people that don't travel on a day, on a monthly basis. You know, people that this is their one trip they take for the year, and they're with their family, and it's a lot to kind of manage for them. That just having some just having some can't think of the word I'm looking for, but having a little bit of grace, and being able to say, like, I'll let me help you kind of navigate this experience so that it doesn't have to be as stressful. I feel like I've gotten a lot better at that over the years, and just, just having more understanding for people, and the fact that everybody's in a different situation and you never know what somebody's going through. I think one of the things that I've learned a lot or I've become more conscious of is the fact that you kind of never know what people are the reasons why people are traveling. They might be going to a funeral, they might be going to say goodbye to a parent who's on the verge of dying, or they might be going to a wedding, or they might be going to a graduation, or they might be going on a vacation and this is the first vacation they've taken in a decade. I mean, you just kind of never know, which is part of what really makes it interesting. Is I love those moments of being able to connect and talk to passengers and kind of find out what they are traveling for, and where they are going, what they are doing, because it's interesting to hear kind of just this vast array of situations that people are in, and where they are in their lives. And sometimes it's for really great reasons and sometimes it's not so great reasons. But those reasons that are not so great reasons to be traveling are the moments where it's um where I love the opportunity, that the position that I'm in, where I can say, let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. If there's anything you need, just please let me know. um I get it. I understand it's not fun. And so I how much of that is that I've learned over the years comes from flying, or how much of it is just getting older and being more kind of aware of the fact that life exists outside of my little bubble. It's hard to say, but I do feel like I've learned a lot over the years of flying. I've encountered so many really amazing people, and heard really amazing stories, and just I've been in met people that I never would have met otherwise, which is really cool.
Being a flight attendant, how important is empathy, listening skills, and communication skills? And you're kind of sort of like a therapist shrink to some people too.
Oh, absolutely. Those skills, empathy, are absolutely essential in this job. You have to. Once again, you're stuck in a metal tube with 200 people, everybody traveling for various different reasons. Somebody might be having a really bad day, and having empathy for the fact that they had to wait in the line at the airport to get through security for 2 hours, and that is not fun. Nobody likes that. And then they didn't have time to stop and get some food, so they're starving. And then they got to the gate, and the gate agent changed their seat, and they, I mean, like, all these things that can happen, all these things that can go wrong when you're traveling. You kind of you have to have a lot of empathy, and understand that that everybody's day may not be going great, but they're coming on the airplane. And my goal is always to try and, kind of like I said, is to try and connect with them as much as I can. And even if it's just a smile, and how are you doing? Like, how's your day going? And oh, I'm really sorry, it's not going great. Like, what can I do to make it a little bit better? Like, I can give you a bottle of water. I can give you some airplane snacks. Like, I don't have a whole lot else I can do, but I can at least help you with that. And but yeah, I think, yeah, understanding that people are in different places, and maybe not having the best day is, I think, is it is so important in this job, to remember those things and to be conscious of that, and to actively be aware of that, so that I can, you know, help them have a better day.
What is the process like in becoming a flight attendant, Emily? And what's the training like that's involved?
So, um, the process to become a flight attendant is actually, it's kind of an interesting one, and it's different than any other sort of job interview that like exists out there for any other job. The airlines only hire generally once or twice a year, kind of depending on the year, depending on what's going on, depending on how business is going. After 9/11, the airlines went for about 10 years without hiring at all.
Wow.
So yeah, like I mean, just no airlines hired for about 10 years after 9/11. So it's really because it's an industry that is so dependent upon the economy, and the world going well, that when things are not going great in the outside world, the airline industry really suffers, and it can put a pause on hiring. So for getting for going through the process of getting hired with an airline, is they hire in batches, so they will hire a large amount at one time. That can be anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 people, that they will hire. Some of the smaller airlines will hire in smaller groups, but for kind of the large airlines, they generally hire in these large batches. So they'll open up the application, and generally they get so many applications, that it's a lot of times it's only open for a couple of hours, a couple, like a day, 2 days, kind of depending how many applications they get, because it's such a high demand job that they will get so many applications. I mean, I think when the application had opened, when I had applied, I think they had gotten about 50,000 applicants in a matter of
Wow.
like 24 or 48 hours or something, and they hired, I think it was about 1,500 out of that number. So it's very, very competitive. There's all sorts of steps. There's a bunch of steps that you have to go through. You have to do like, um um not quizzes, but like, there'll be like a personality quiz you have to do, and then there's generally like a um virtual interview where you kind of just talking to a camera, but you're answering a question to a camera, and recording it, and then they go and watch it afterwards. And then the last step is the face-to-face interview, where they bring in, and generally it'll be a couple hundred people that they'll bring in at one time to do the face-to-face interview, and then they'll whittle that down to, a much smaller number out of that. So it's a very unique hiring situation, when airlines do hire, and it's a hard process. And I actually have done quite a bit of, talked about this recently on my social media channels, is talking about, how to prepare for an airline interview, because it does really kind of require, you really have to be prepared for it. You kind of have to know what to expect, so that you're prepared to answer the kind of questions that they ask. And they're kind of looking for specific types of things in people. And so it's a very hard process. It is well worth it in the end when you get through that process, but it's a difficult process, and it's unlike any other interview that you've ever been to before. Going to a group interview with 200 or 300 other people in a room, and at the end of the day, they pick 50 of you that they're going to hire. I mean, it's kind of it's a very weird, um, it's a very weird experience, kind of, honestly.
Do you feel the airline industry right now is shrinking due to the economies? And what are your thoughts on AI eventually maybe replacing flight attendants? Do you see that happening at some point?
No, so I don't. So as far as the economy and the airline industry, I don't see any signs of that. At least with my airline, every flight is still full. We don't have a bunch of open seats. We are pretty full, kind of on every single flight. There probably is some slowdown, but as far as what I can tell, I really haven't been able to see that big of a difference in in it. We'll see as numbers come out about profit and all that sort of stuff, like how much there has been impact. I'm sure there is impact, but as a flight attendant, I can't tell. I don't notice any difference because every flight that I work, there's a couple open seats, and it's not like we have half the plane open or anything. They're usually pretty full. And then as far as AI goes, I don't ever see a world where AI replaces flight attendants. It requires too much human interaction and just on your feet thinking for AI to ever take over that. And I know that there are some companies, or at least there's one company that I've read about recently that was testing um, or they were had a have a pilot program or something for AI, or for AI robots to do the job of flight attendants. I think that's more of like fairy tale. I think it's fine that they're testing it and trying this out. I don't ever see that in reality being like a practical thing that will happen. Where I see AI being beneficial to the airlines is in things like reservations and helping you out when with tracking your bag and checking your bag, and helping internal employees with helping internal employees with managing all of the back behind the scenes stuff that happens with airlines, and helping the airlines better plan routes and to get better fuel efficiency and that sort of stuff. I see AI being really, really helpful in the airlines, just like it will be across, many, many industries. I think the airlines will see a lot of benefit from AI, but I don't think that that would ever entail replacing the flight attendants or the pilots. I just don't. I don't see that as being something that's practical or realistic.
Overall, how much staff, how many flight attendants are generally on a flight? And obviously, you have the pilot and the co-pilot. So generally on a staff, how much staffing do you have on one flight?
It depends on the size of the plane, but on like smaller some of the smaller airplanes, it could be one flight attendant on there. With my airline, the large majority of our fleet is larger planes, so it's always 99% of the time it's four flight attendants. There's a couple exceptions to that, but usually four flight attendants for domestic, and then international flights, it can be anywhere from 7 to 10 flight attendants, kind of depending on the size. All depends on the size of the plane. It comes down to how many seats there are. The FAA has strict regulations around how many flight attendants you have to have per the number of seats. So it totally comes down to the size of the plane and how many seats that plane has, is what determines how many flight attendants you have.
I know here in Canada, people have complained. A lot of the airlines here have kind of shrunk the size of the seats. Have they done that over in the States too, where the seat
Oh,
size is shrunk and people have less and less room?
yes. Oh, for sure. They absolutely have. It's to optimize the number of seats they can get on a plane so that they can pack more people in and make more money and get better fuel efficient, get better uh like for what they're spending on fuel, that they're getting more bodies in the planes. It's absolutely, it's been a thing for years that they keep shrinking the size down. And I always feel so bad for when I've got these guys that are like 6'4" or 6'8". They come on and they're stuck in the back of the plane, and their knees are up against the seat in front of them. And I always feel so bad for them. But but yes, it has been a thing for years that the size of the seats has shrank compared to what it used to be, for sure.
Now, I wanted to put you on the spot here with this question, Emily. Are you still good with time for a bit?
Yeah,
Still good for
yeah,
time? Okay. We're almost at an hour. See, great conversations, an hour flies by. So, do you
absolutely.
remember do you remember the first flight you had as a flight attendant, and were you very nervous and had anxiety the first shift that you did?
Yes, I do remember the first flight I had. And so right out of training, got assigned a trip, and it ended up being with two of my classmates. So all three of us were brand new, just out of training, didn't have a senior flight attendant to help kind of direct us. We had to figure it all out on our own. And they put me, the two of them decided that I was going to be the lead flight attendant. So I was the one in charge. So, blind leading the blind. Um, but training is really thorough, and they really do prepare you for stuff. But there's a lot of the practical hands-on stuff that a lot of training has to do with safety stuff and medical emergencies, and how to handle various situations where they don't necessarily you're not necessarily super prepared for, like, the day-to-day hands-on kind of flow of how things go. And so, yeah, so my very first flight, I was the lead flight attendant with two other brand stinking new flight attendants just like me, and we had to figure it out. We ended up doing great. And I don't remember where we went. I don't remember where we went. I just remember it being, like, very, very stressful. And but also at the same time, there was a good sense of kind of relief that I had two of my friends, because they were very good friends of mine. So it was a sense of relief that kind of three of us were together, that we were able to kind of figure it out together and lean on each other and help each other out. And at the end of the day, we figured it out. I don't know how well we did, but we made it through. So couldn't have done too horribly well, or too horribly terrible.
What's been your shortest flight and your longest flight, and how many countries in the world have you traveled to so far?
Um, I shortest flight, I think, is Charlotte to Raleigh Durham, which is like, I mean, it's literally like a 12-minute flight or something. I
Wow.
it's I don't remember exactly how it's something like that. I could be a little off on the numbers. It's something like that. So it's literally just this. I mean, you're not even getting up to full cruising altitude. I mean, you're going halfway up and coming right back down. It's very, very short. And then longest flight I've done, I think, is probably Seattle to Amsterdam, I think. And that's I want now, oh my gosh, I totally can't remember how long that is. I want to say it's like 10 hours, maybe a little bit more than 10 hours, 11 hours. I could I might be wrong on that, but I think it's about 10 hours. I think it was about 10 hours on that one. And then number of countries I've been to. I don't do a lot of international flying, so
Okay.
yeah. So I've only been to a couple. I mean, I've been to Europe, London, Amsterdam, Greece, um, Sao Paulo, um, then, like, Hawaii and Alaska, and but that's it. Yeah, so I don't do a lot of international flying. I actually like the shorter flights. I like an hour and a half to 2 hour flight. Being on a plane for 9, 10, 11 hours is just kind of torture to me.
Plus jet lag too when you go to different time zones as well.
Yes, that's the other thing I say all the time is that it throws off your sleep schedule so much. And it really if you're doing it all the time, you kind of get into a routine with it. But I don't love the jet lag and the just how much it throws off. You're trying to sleep during daylight hours there, and I like it throws me off so much. So I'm like, nope, I will happily stay domestic where I can know that I can be done at a reasonable time and go to bed at a reasonable time and get up in the morning at, normal time. So
Have you flown in Canada yet?
you know what? I have not. It is one
Okay.
of the few places that I have not. I have never been to Canada, and especially growing up in Ohio, as close as we were to Canada,
Yeah.
I have never been, and it's on my list. Toronto is on my list because I've heard such great things about Toronto. So I would like to get there at some point, hopefully
It,
soon.
I'm only an hour away from Toronto, and it's our version of New York, Chicago, and Los
Hmm.
Angeles. Very, very diverse, multicultural, but the traffic is bad. It's one of the worst cities in North
Is it?
America for traffic. So you want to use public transit or Uber to get around Toronto. It's crazy, but it's a very nice city as well. So hopefully one day you get to come out to Canada as well.
I hope so. I really do. I hope I get to.
And I will try flying once in my life. I
You
should try it
should.
once.
You absolutely just once. Just do it one time and and give it a shot.
Have you thought about in the future having your own podcast, the Flight Attendants Podcast?
I've been thinking about it more recently. It's something that's been on my mind a little bit here recently. Kind of thinking about it. So it is something that could potentially happen.
You're a natural on camera and you speak really well and you have a lot of great
Thank you.
stories.
Well,
Gonna put
thank
you on
you.
the
I
spot.
appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. You're welcome. What's a daily day shift like as a flight attendant?
Um, so kind of it can vary a lot. There is no set schedule. So there is no a question I get all the time is what's your normal route? There is no such thing as a normal route as a flight attendant. You go our schedules change daily, weekly, monthly. Our we know a lot of times we know in advance what they're going to be, but it's never the same thing. It's always different. And so let's see. So I have a trip on Sunday. So I think on Sunday I go like my flight leaves at 6:30 in the evening. And I think I go from Phoenix to Salt Lake City and then Salt Lake City to not real sure. Somewhere, somewhere else. And I think Salt Lake City to Portland, Oregon. Um, so that's kind of a normal like 2 to 3 flights a day is kind of normal. There can be more, there can be less, but the average is kind of 2 or 3 flights a day. Where it changes is the length of those flights. So it could be a total of 5 hours of flying between the multiple flights. It could be a total of 8 hours of flying. It's really the most variable, and it's very hard. There is kind of no normal in this. There's a lot of variety, which is what I love about it. I love the fact that it's so different all the time, and I don't have a normal schedule.
And sometimes things happen where there's a mechanical issue or weather issue, things that are out of your control. So you also have to be prepared for the unexpected as a flight attendant.
Absolutely, absolutely. It happens all the time. Delays happen because of the weather, because a plane had a mechanic. So it might not be our plane that has a mechanical, but maybe the flight coming in had a mechanical, and so that delays our flight. Weather is a big factor because obviously, as big as I mean, just talking about domestically, as big as the US is, one side of the country might be great and the other side might be having severe weather and and then that causes a ripple effect across everything and kind of can throw everything off, and you end up getting delays across the board. And then, so yeah, one of the one of the things that we kind of always joke about and say is that the only thing consistent with this job is the inconsistency.
Emily, how do you guys deal with unruly customers who are either intoxicated or having substance or having mental health issues? Are there still on-air marshals on the airplanes or some kind of security?
No, very, very rarely. There are air marshals exist, and they are on flights, but you don't know in advance when they're going to be there. We do know when they are there, but it's not, maybe out of 10 flights, there may be an air marshal on maybe two of them, three of them. I mean, it's very, you don't see them very often. But when we do have, so dealing with intoxicated passengers, dealing with unruly passengers, people having mental health breaks, is definitely something we have to deal with fairly regularly. And the best way for us to deal with it is to deal with it on the ground before we get up in the air, because once we get up in the air, it's very hard. You don't have anywhere to go. It becomes a much harder situation to deal with. So part of training and part of what we learn over time doing this is to really be very aware and very conscious of catching some of those warning signals for things like that ahead of time. Um, things like intoxication. Certain cities, like Las Vegas or Nashville, are a little bit more prone to having people try and get on the plane after they've been drinking all day. um so in certain cities, you just kind of know to be a little bit more aware of looking for some of those signs, because it does happen more often. But in any flight, we are kind of, when we're standing at the door and greeting passengers, and one of the things that we are always doing is kind of assessing and watching as people come on, and seeing if they're stumbling, seeing, saying hi, and if they answer us, say hi back if they're slurring their words. And um one of the things that has become more common, obviously, with the legalization of marijuana in a lot of places, we'll have a lot of people that, come on, and you can just smell it. I mean, they just, like, you can smell it coming off of them. So we just have to we are trained, and we are very aware of kind of watching for those signs, and trying our best to deal with it on the ground. And for me, I've been in enough situations where people have been intoxicated or, causing a problem once we're in the air, that I am the first one to say, no. If they are drunk at all, they're going to stay on the ground. They're going to stay, and we'll rebook them on the next flight, so they can sober up a little bit before we get in the air. Because once you're in a metal tube at 30,000 feet, like, there's only so much you can do to deal with those situations, and it just becomes a much harder thing to handle at that point.
What are your thoughts of alcohol on airlines? Do you find that for the most part, people are pretty responsible, or do you find nowadays it's getting a little out of hand with people getting intoxicated on flights?
No, I think for the most part, people are pretty responsible. And then at the same time, we don't serve, it's not like it's an open bar. We do our service, and you can order a drink or two when we do our service. But, for the most part, it's most people, 99% of the time, people have a drink, maybe two, and that's it. And the large majority of people don't drink on airplanes. It's, an airplane's very dehydrating anyways, and then adding alcohol on top of that, it causes dehydration very, very quickly. And you also feel the effects of alcohol more quickly. So I a lot, just, it's not as big of a deal. Again, except for those certain cities, people do tend to be a little bit more um ready to drink. But for the most part, most of the time, it's just really not that big of an issue. um I think what is kind of become the bigger not necessarily issue, but what is happening more is just the ability to take video of people that are acting badly and post that online. So I think we're seeing it happen more often. So it feels like it's happening all the time. It's really not. I think it's just that we're seeing those videos posted more regularly or posted more readily available on social media. So it makes it seem like it's this really really common thing, and really, flying on a daily basis or weekly basis, it's not as big of a deal as it kind of feels like based on the clips that we see online.
Are people allowed to bring their pets right on the flights and also
Hmm.
laptops and all that too?
Hmm. Yep, absolutely. So pets, um, service animals are all allowed and protected. And I think almost all the airlines allow pets. I don't know of any particular that don't allow pets. For a pet, it has to be able to fit in a carrier underneath the seat in front of you, which, does limit you to smaller animals. Obviously, you can't fit, a black lab under the seat
Yeah.
in front of you. So it does limit the kinds of pets that you can bring. But as long as they can fit under, in a carrier under the seat in front of you, you're allowed to bring them. Some airlines charge a fee for it, some don't. Um, and then yeah, sorry, I forgot the second part after. Oh, laptops. Yep, laptops. Yep. Um, yep, laptops, phones, all that stuff. You don't even have to put your phone in airplane mode anymore because it doesn't
Really?
affect the. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't affect the there might be some airlines that still do ask you to do that, but for the most part, the reason for that was that it affected some of the instrumentation on older airplanes. And on any of the newer planes, it doesn't, the cell phone signal doesn't interact with with that instrumentation. So it's not a, I mean, it's not going to work if you don't have it in airplane mode, it's not going to work. You can't make phone calls and stuff, but you can connect to Wi-Fi. Most of them have Wi-Fi now, available, whether for purchase or for free, and so you can connect to Wi-Fi. But yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, even airplane mode is just not even like as big of a deal as it used to be. So yeah, it's changed a lot.
Now, all the seating is assigned. How flexible are you with if guests are willing to switch seats? Are you guys accommodating, or does everyone have to sit exactly where they're assigned?
No, if people want to switch seats, as long as they're, yeah, no, it's total. We don't. I mean, we don't have a problem with it. We don't make a big deal about it. If especially because it does happen quite a bit. You'll have like a family that maybe one member of the family got seated 2 rows away. So they'll ask the person sitting close to the family if they mind switching. And no, I'm always happy to accommodate if somebody needs to switch or wants to switch, has a reason that, they'd rather be in one seat. It's always up to the person they're asking to switch with. And if that person doesn't want to switch, then I'm totally going to back that person up and say, nope, sorry, you guys stay in the seat you're assigned. But yeah, switching is, very kind of a little, as long as everybody has a seat and there's no fighting on board about it, then it's all good.
What are your thoughts on the uniforms and how important is it to have the right footwear for these flights?
So the uniform is nice because you know what, it makes it really easy. I don't have to think about what I'm wearing. I mean, I have different uniform pieces so I can kind of mix and match, so I can change it up a little bit. But the uniform is nice because it does make it's very easy. I really enjoy, like I said, I took 6 years off of work, and I was so excited to come back and get a new uniform. And I feel a lot of pride in putting that uniform on. It means a lot to me. But shoes are absolutely probably the most important part of the uniform. Good footwear is when you're on your feet for 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day, having shoes that are not great is, you're just miserable. You're absolutely miserable. Your back hurts, your feet hurt, your legs hurt. So shoes are a big thing for me. They have to be good, comfortable shoes. Otherwise, I'm not happy, which means, I'm not performing my best, and I'm not being the best for our passengers.
For our audience, for our audience, including myself, who's never flown, can you just explain quickly the term air turbulence for those people, and how do people react to bad air turbulence, and how often does it happen?
So turbulence is essentially just air pockets where the plane goes to. It could be air pockets. It could be the wake from another plane. There's a couple different reasons, and I don't know all of the science behind like what causes all of them, but essentially it's just a point where the plane is flying and it will hit a little air pocket and it just kind of vibrates a little bit. So there's different levels of turbulence from mild to severe, and mild is, where it's just a little bit of bumping. It's not like necessarily smooth. Up to severe turbulence where the plane might drop 100 feet in like a second, or it might be just violently shaking. And that generally is like if you're flying through like a really bad storm, which of course the airlines try to avoid. They'll try and go around as much as they can. Sometimes you can't avoid it, or they don't know that it's there. So, but as far as how people react to it, when it's mild turbulence, when it's just that little bit of kind of shaking, little bit of vibration, little bit of gentle bumping, most passengers don't even they'll get up and go to the bathroom and don't even realize like that, we're saying the seatbelt sign is on for a reason. It's a little bit bumpy. It's not safe to be up. Most people are just not even necessarily aware that even that little bit of bumping can be dangerous. So stay in your seat if it's bumpy at all. You should not be up and moving around the plane. And then up to where you've got, more moderate or severe turbulence, where it's very noticeably shaking, and it can be quite scary. And it can be scary for us. Like it's it's because there's nothing you can do. You just kind of have to, and you don't necessarily know. You don't know how long it's going to last. Um, it's in the air, so you can't see it. You don't. They have a lot of the pilots have a lot of technology that helps them identify where turbulence may be, but it isn't necessarily always able to be identified. Sometimes it happens and they are not aware that we're coming up on a pocket of turbulence. So it can be scary. But again, that's kind of when turbulence does happen. If it's bumpy, that's where you should be staying in your seat. Keep your seatbelt fastened. That's not the time to get up and go to the bathroom or come to the back alley and ask us for a snack. It's really, we are telling you to stay seated for your safety, because we can't, especially in the back, um, just the flight attendants in the main cabin, we can't see what's in front of us. We can't see where we're going. We can't see, and we're not necessarily getting like um, second by second updates from the pilots on what to expect or how long it's going to last. So, we don't always know. So the best thing we can tell you is to stay in your seat, keep your seatbelt fastened, so that you stay safe and that you don't get injured because all of a sudden we hit a pocket of turbulence and you get thrown to the ceiling and hit your head and get hurt. Like that's we always want to avoid that.
In your 8-year career, have you ever been on a flight where they had an emergency landing and you kind of were like a little bit scared yourself?
I have not. I have never had. I don't think. No, I've never had an emergency landing. I've had plenty of medical issues, and I have friends that have been through emergency landings and have talked to them afterwards, and they say it is scary. It is because you don't necessarily know exactly what's happening or what might be going on. Because generally, when that happens, the pilots are dealing with a lot, so they try and communicate with us as best as possible, but they may not always be able to give us like up to date like communication. So sometimes we're kind of left in the dark on like what might be going on at that second. Um, so yes, I've been told that it is scary, but at the same time, our training, that is what our training is for, and that is the large portion of what our training is how to deal with those emergencies when they happen, so that we know what to do, the commands that we have to yell, the procedures that we go through to evacuate people off of a plane. Um, Everybody says that when they go through those types of situations, the training kicks in so quickly and you do it without even thinking about it. It's so instinctual because it's so ingrained in us, through training and through repeated trainings that we go through in our career. So I generally, people feel like they handled it as best they could. But again, I've never been in a situation, knock on wood. I hope to never be in that situation. That's, don't ever want that to happen. But I do feel like if that was to happen, that I would be totally prepared and um, be fine to handle it the way I've been trained to.
As for pilots, there's obviously a pilot and a co-pilot. Now, is there a time limit how long they can fly straight? Like where they have to, that's
Mhm.
it, they have to call it a day like truck drivers, like 12, is there a 12-hour limit, 14-hour limit?
I don't know. Yes, there is a limit. There is absolutely a limit that pilots are restricted by the FAA on what they are allowed to fly. Um, I th- it depends on whether it's domestic or international. International, you have an extra pilot, so you have a third pilot so that they can take a break, kind of in the middle of that. Domestically, I think it's a 10-hour that they could be on duty for 10 hours. Now, doesn't necessarily mean they're flying for 10 hours, but from the minute their duty day starts to when it ends, I think it's 10 hours, but I could be wrong on that. I know for us, it is, it's essentially it's a 15-hour duty day is our limit, but for pilots, it's significantly shorter than what it is for us.
Emily, as we wrap up this show, I wanted to ask you this as well. Can you just tell us a little about being a content creator, especially on TikTok and Instagram, and sharing your flight attendant stories and experiences on social media, and how your following has exploded?
Yeah, so I started making videos like years ago. I just kind of did it like just for fun. Was never really all that serious about it. Never thought about it as like being something, like being a I don't know, like a job, or and like never, and just it was just like a little, I did videos here and there. And then when I did come back to flying, 2 years ago, and was going through training again, I I kind of had the idea, you know what, I really want to document my my learning, to document this journey and what this is like, so that people kind of do get a better understanding. And because it's something that people always have questions about, is what this job is like. And so I thought, you know what, I'll document my experience going through training and then going back to flying, and just being a flight attendant, and then just life as a mom as well, and especially having twins, and just every day. Like, I don't know, as I started doing it more, it became this thing that I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy sharing my experiences, my journey through these different things in life, like work and being a mom and being a wife, and I love it. And I hope that, kind of what I do share about being a flight attendant, I hope that it does help people, because once again, when we talked about it, it's just the interview process is kind of unlike any other job. So I hope that sharing some of those things kind of gives people a little bit better understanding of how that goes and what to expect, and helps prepare them a little bit more for the process, so that they can end up getting hired and becoming a flight attendant. So yeah, it's just I it's still very weird to me to when my friends will say, "Oh yeah, she's an influencer," and I'm like, I'm not like I'm not like I'm not I'm not an influencer. I don't. It's that's so weird to me. And I definitely don't feel that way at all. Like I just feel like I enjoy the process of creating content and filming videos, and I love the editing process, and I just I it's kind of a creative outlet for me, and I really enjoy doing it. So I I I love the fact that people like my videos and will follow along and get enjoyment out of what I share. So that's kind of what it is for me.
That's how we connected. How I found you on social media
Mhm.
was through your content, and I was always interested in having somebody on from the airlines to come on my show. So I want to say thank you so much, and I want to just as we wrap this show up, I just want to play a little clip from your YouTube channel. Where can people follow you on social media and your YouTube channel?
So my on all of my socials, it's either Emily Arner. It's either at Emily Arner or it's the Emily Arner. Instagram, it's the Emily Arner, and I think on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, it's just Emily Arner. I have those are I yeah, all of them. I don't know. I think I've got some of the other smaller ones too, but I don't. The main ones I post on are Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube.
And I have them on the graphics ticker below too.
Oh, thank you. Perfect.
So I'm gonna play this right now, courtesy of your YouTube channel. I've already subscribed and liked, and as we wrap this up, I'll just quickly play this video. I think you did this recently.
Had a very upset passenger leaving our plane today. So I thought this was a really good topic to talk about as we're all doing holiday travel. If you have an allergy, do not wait till we are halfway through the flight to tell us about it. Tell the gate agent, tell the flight attendants when you come on board. Let us know so that we can accommodate you as much as possible. Don't wait until halfway through the flight to tell us that you have a dog allergy and you're sitting right next to a dog. At that point, there isn't much that we can do. So this passenger today waits till we're almost finished with the flight before he tells us that he has a severe dog allergy and he's literally sitting surrounded by 3 dogs. And then is mad at us that there's nothing we can do. It was an extremely full flight. We didn't have any open seats we could move him to, and it was already the end of the flight. So just so you know, if you have a dog allergy, a cat allergy, a peanut
Thoughts on this video on your YouTube channel, and where can people find your YouTube channel?
So YouTube, it's Emily Arner, and yeah, it's this is a lot of what I share is just kind of the everyday kind of I do a lot like this where I'll get to the hotel at the end of a long day, and I'll kind of talk about like, oh, this happened, or oh yeah, you have an allergy, let us know, like just tips and tricks for travelers. And um yeah, so I like doing that just because it does help people that don't necessarily travel a whole lot. I feel like it helps to kind of share these situations that happen so that they maybe go into their travel experience being a little bit better prepared to let us help them as best we can.
As we wrap this show up, I wanted to ask you this too, since I got you on quickly. Thoughts on hotels? How important is it to be staying in good hotels when you're on overnight
Oh,
flights?
huge difference. It can make a huge difference in how well you sleep, how much noise there is. Better hotels have better sound dampening, better doors and better walls where you're not hearing the sound from everybody next door. And as a flight attendant, especially if we're on a short layover, for like on a minimum amount of time on a layover, the amount of sleep that we get is essential. And being in a room where you can hear the person next in the room next to you watching TV or talking on the phone all night long is really frustrating. And I think my personal biggest pet peeve is hotels that don't have good pillows. I need a good pillow to really get a good night's sleep, and a bad pillow will just like, ugh, it's like the worst.
Absolutely. I think pillow And the mattress too. But I do agree with
Mhm.
you. Pillow first, but the mattress is a second as well. And sometimes these noises can really drive you nuts, and it's hard to fall asleep. So if you get a hotel where the pillow's good, the mattress is good, and it's relatively quiet, you're very lucky.
Oh, that's the perfect combination right there.
As we wrap this show up, what are some fun facts or a fun fact about yourself and being a flight attendant?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. A fun fact about myself. Fun fact about myself and is that I cannot resist the Biscoff cookies. On Delta, and I think American has them as well. I think a couple airlines have the Biscoff cookies as one of our snack options. I cannot resist them. I mean, like it's really bad. Like I cannot resist them. If I am hungry at all, I am going straight for that Biscoff cookie every single time and will eat more than I should of them.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'9" and a half.
Oh, I'm 5'6".
Or, or at least I say I'm 5'9" and a half. I think I've maybe lost a little bit. I don't know if I'm that half anymore. I might just be 5'9", but at least when I was younger, I was 5'9" and a half.
Favorite traveling food? Like when you're on flights and you're traveling, what's your favorite food to have?
Um, you know what? You can't go wrong with a good burger. Like there's something about a good burger that just it's easy. It's usually messy, but like that's my like go-to airport food. I will look for where the burgers are and grab a good burger.
Now I have a craving for a burger now.
And actually, my husband's making us burgers for dinner because I've been craving one for days. I was like, "Oh, you got to make
Oh,
us burgers for dinner." So as soon as we're done, I got to go downstairs and start working on prepping
tell
the
them,
burgers.
tell them to save me one or have one for me. Homemade burgers are the
Absolutely.
best. Homemade burgers are the
Yes.
best. And you
Yes.
have to put
Yes.
I like putting crackers, and I also like using barbecue sauce.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I actually do A1 sauce instead of barbecue sauce, but so I'll mix it up with either
Okay,
A1 or barbecue. But yes, crackers in the patty, 100%. I always do that. Yes, always.
absolutely. And this is a new segment on my show as we wrap this up quickly. It's Ask the Host CDP a question. Do you have a quick question to put me on the hot seat as we wrap this up?
I do. Okay, so after this, how likely are you to actually go get on a flight?
I would like to go on a flight. I just don't know if I want to do 16 hours to Australia because Australia,
Yeah, no, no, no.
that's the
Do
place
a
that
short one.
short. Yeah. So what would you recommend? Like 2 hours for
Like
someone
2
that
hours, like 2 hours.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just to like to try, do a short flight before you commit to doing the 16-hour flight because, yes, like Australia is would definitely be amazing, and I want
Yeah.
to go to Australia so badly, but
Yeah.
yeah, for your first flight, that's
Two
because you
hours.
also don't know how your body's going to react to it. Like do a short flight just to like try it out so you kind of
Sure.
know what to expect and you know how it goes and then do the 16-hour flight.
And if I do try a flight, hopefully I run into you as a flight attendant.
Absolutely, that would be amazing. Make sure you say hi. If any of you
Yes.
run into me on a flight, make sure you say hi. I would love to chat with you.
I haven't known you that long, but it seems like I've known you for years, and that's what I love about this show is the storytelling, the learning, but also connecting from my guests. And I try to build a rapport with all my guests, like I'm assuming you do as a flight attendant too, to build a rapport because you might see people that fly with you multiple times or even 10 times as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, for sure. It's so nice to be able to connect with people in whatever the situation it is, work or just personal. It's great to find find those connections and find people that you have that connection with. It's great.
Last question, I promise.
Mhm.
Where can our audience follow you on social media, your website, and the best way of contacting you for podcast requests or just information about what your son's going through?
Yeah. So So my email is emilyarner@gmail.com. Pretty easy. All my social medias are either the Emily Arner or Emily Arner. And I do not currently have a website. I need to redo it. But feel free to email me or just send me a message on social media. So it's I'm on socials all the time. So and I check my messages very regularly. So that is the best way to get a hold of me.
You do have a website similar to mine on beacons.ai. I use
Oh yeah, yeah,
beacons.ai.
yeah.
Yes. So
Yes.
I did put that on there as well, beacons.ai.
Awesome. Yes, perfect. I totally forgot that I have that on there. So like, yeah. So yeah, thank you for the reminder.
So we both have beacon.ai accounts. So
Yes, yes. Totally forgot
now
I had that.
as I let you go in 10 seconds, are you an NFL fan by any chance?
Oh, I am Cincinnati Bengals. Absolutely. Who day?
Cincinnati. Who's your favorite Bengal?
Jamar, got to be Jamar Chase. I love Jamar
Sure.
Chase. He's just fantastic.
Joe Burrow's pretty good too. And Joe
And
Burrow's
I mean,
dad,
you can't go wrong with Joe Burrow. Gotta love Joe Burrow.
his dad played in the Canadian Football League up here with the Montreal Alouettes. So there's a Canadian
Oh, did he
connection with
really?
Joe. Yeah, his dad played in the
Oh, I
late
didn't know that.
70s and early 80s in the CFL with the Montreal Alouettes. And that's another
Oh,
city I
that's
want to go to
amazing.
is Montreal. Bonjour,
Yeah.
madame. So I'm going to learn to
Yeah.
do some French too.
Ooh-wee.
That's another city
Yeah.
you'd like to go to in Canada is Montreal.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to go to Montreal.
Okay, since the Bengals didn't make the playoffs, who's your Super Bowl pick? You got a Super Bowl pick?
My husband is a Bears fan, so I'm rooting for the Bears at this point, just for him.
Okay.
But I don't know if the Bears are going to make it to the Super Bowl. I think that's pretty lofty goals, but so yeah, no, I don't. Other than, yeah, no, I don't have a pick at this point. I think it's still too early to have a pick right now.
I'm going with my Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles. Fly
There we
Eagles,
go.
fly, go birds.
Fly Eagles.
Philly
Yep,
fans are crazy. They're crazy. But hey, Emily,
they
I'm gonna let you.
are.
They're crazy. They're passionate, but they love their sports, and sports unites us as well. Hey, Emily, I'm gonna let
Absolutely.
you go, but I would love to have you back on again in the future as a future guest and
Yeah, I'd
continue
love to be back
success.
on. Thank you so
Continue
much.
success as a flight attendant, content creator, and your mom. And make sure you spoil your kids for me. And
Yes.
I just want to say thank you so much for giving us over 90 minutes of your time today. I learned a
Yeah.
lot from you, and I
Oh,
look
good.
forward to reconnecting with you again as well. So make sure you enjoy your hamburgers tonight, and I will
I
get you the
will.
full video. You have one for me, and I'll make sure I get
Awesome.
the video, audio, and some real clips for you as well, Emily. But thank you so much for
Fantastic.
doing this today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I will I'll talk to you hopefully soon.
Soon. Okay, you too. Talk to you soon. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Emily.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. That wraps up season 12, episode 41, overall 646 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, hosted by yours truly, Chris Pame, and brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. I want to say thank you to my guest tonight, Emily Arner. Emily Arner, a longtime flight attendant and content creator, for coming on and talking to us a little bit about her son's medical condition and a little bit about her career as a flight attendant and also as a content creator as well. So thank you to Emily Arner for coming on here tonight. I'm going to cut this ending short since this show is over 90 minutes. My next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you and sponsored by BarryCullen.com, is going to take place on Monday, January 12th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, Griffin Della Pina, who's a friend of mine. I met him with the Buffalo Bandits in 2022. And Griffin Della Pina is now currently the works for the Coastal Athletic Association as the conference director of creative content. And he's also a freelance media reporter as well. So Griffin Della Pina will make his second appearance on our show, and he is from the Coastal Athletic Association. He is the director of creative content and multimedia, and he's also a reporter and does freelance media coverage for a number of professional sports teams. So this Monday, January 12th, 4:30. Tune in to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph, with special guest Griffin Della Pina. And I am working on more great guests and shows for next week as well. And I want to say thank you again to Emily Arner for coming on, a flight attendant and content creator. Thank you to everyone watching this show tonight on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, Instagram, and this show is available on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Good Pods, and wherever podcasts are available. And the reels and clips will be on my TikTok page at Chris Pame, on my YouTube channel at Chris Pame Live with CDP Talk Show under YouTube Shorts, and reels and clips will be on my Instagram page under Chris Pame as well. So make sure you follow me on my social media platforms, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Chris Pame Live with CDP Talk Show as well. And before we wrap this show up, guys, NFL wildcard weekend starts tomorrow. We've got the Rams and Panthers at 4:30. I'm going with the Rams to win this game. And then Saturday night, we have the Packers and Bears from Chicago at 8 o'clock. I'm going with the Packers in an upset. And then Sunday, we've got a few games on Sunday. Bills and Jaguars on Sunday. I'm going with Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars to beat Josh Allen and the Bills. Eagles and Niners, 4:30 Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. I'm going with Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and A.J. Brown to defeat the Niners 23-20. 23-20 Eagles over the Niners in a close game. And then the Sunday night game, Chargers and Patriots. Patriots are favored, but I'm going with Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh in the LA Chargers to upset the Patriots Sunday night football in Foxborough at Gillette Stadium. And the Monday night game and the final wild card game is Houston and Pittsburgh from Heinz Field. I still call it Heinz Field in Pittsburgh at 8:15. I'm going to go with CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans to upset the Steelers at Heinz Field this Monday night. So I've got Rams, Packers, Jaguars, Eagles, Chargers, and Houston Texans winning all weekend as well. I hope everybody has a great weekend and enjoy the NFL playoff games on Saturday and Sunday and Monday Night Football. And we'll see you back here this Monday, January 12th, 4:30 p.m. with Griffin Della Pina from the Coastal Athletic Association. And we'll talk a little more about his career and as a freelance media reporter as well. And maybe a little bit about the Bills-Jaguars game too, because Griffin is a huge sports fan and a fan of the Buffalo Bills as well. So thank you to everyone for watching and listening to the show, and to Barry Cullen Chevrolet, and to my special guest tonight, Emily Arner, a flight attendant from out of Arizona and content creator. So please check her out on social media. Have a great night, everybody. Have a great night, everyone. Great weekend. And I always say this too before an Eagles game. Go Birds, fly Eagles, fly. We'll see you back here Monday, everybody, at 4:30 for Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, hosted by Chris Pame and brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Good night, everybody.